How much do you want to be able to spend in retirement? That's the ultimate question for us to consider today. And in this video, I'm going to cover sort of two extreme sides of the FIRE equation. That's financial independence, retire early. I'm calling this part one of two, maybe three actually, where I'm going to compare and contrast two types of financial independence beyond traditional FIRE. That's lean FIRE and fat FIRE today. So what does each look like? Who are they for? And are these worth pursuing for you? By the way, next week in part two, I'm going to discuss two more types of FIRE. That's slow FIRE and coast FIRE. So if you aren't subscribed and you want to make sure you're notified about that one, be sure to tap that subscribe button now. And in one of these two videos, actually, I'm going to reveal which path I'm pursuing, so stick around. First of all, I'll say this. Some people are totally turned off by the concept of FIRE. They think it's extreme. Most people hear about it and assume it means living like a total minimalist, not traveling, or spending money otherwise for fun, like ever. The misconception is that it's a no fun life where you save 75% plus of your income and live like a hermit. If you're into that, great, and some people are, but I'd argue most people aren't. And it's not just my opinion, the data actually backs it up. Studies show that the average American saves just around 5% of their income. Yikes. Honestly, that's higher than I thought it was going to be. However, there are so many paths to pursuing FIRE, and I find this to be the refreshing part of the FIRE movement that really opened up my eyes. As a quick refresher though, standard FIRE means saving and investing 25 times your annual expenses, then living off 4% of your investment portfolio in retirement, the 4% rule. In this situation, studies show you're very unlikely to run out of money within 30 years, but conceivably, ever. And with that, today I want to present two sides of the financial independence movement, fat FIRE and lean FIRE. Let's start with fat FIRE, or financial independence with fat pockets of money. Get it? I might have just made that up. That was stupid. Fat FIRE allows you to live off of an upper middle class income come retirement. Your fat FIRE number will vary depending on your location and desired lifestyle, but a common number is an annual income of $100,000 in retirement. That means you need to have no less than $2.5 million invested based on the 4% rule to be fat FIRE. With fat FIRE, it will take you longer to reach financial independence, but it does allow you to live off a pretty healthy income come retirement. Okay, with fat FIRE, you plan to spend, again, $100,000 or more a year in retirement. And that may sound like a lot, but due to inflation, 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now, cost of living could be considerably higher and probably will be than it is now. Maybe not so crazy after all. And if it is crazy, at least it sounds fun to not work and spend $100,000 a year. Am I right? And if you're not sure how to come up with a fat number for you to strive for, think big, but you don't want to plan to go too crazy. One way you could do this is to think about your highest spending year in the last 10 years as a starting point, and maybe you go 20% higher than that. Then 25x that number. And of course, I'm sort of simplifying here, and it's not simple to predict your spending in retirement for anybody, but I'm just trying to give you sort of one idea to consider as a starting point, as a goal. So these are the basics to fat FIRE, and I'll come back to it, but let's discuss the difference in numbers between fat FIRE and lean FIRE. Well, lean FIRE is, as you might expect, quite different, but not the opposite, because the opposite would be a $0 net worth, right? But both of these do mean working hard to save and invest money. However, the financial number goal is much different. Lean FIRE is when someone has saved up 25 times their annual expenses and lives on a lean budget, spending less than the average American, which is around $60,000 a year. With lean FIRE, you plan to live off of around $40,000 a year or even less in retirement. That means saving and investing $1 million, or maybe as little as $750,000 if you can live off of just $30,000 a year in retirement. The big question becomes, can you live off of $30,000 or up to $40,000 a year in retirement? Well, despite inflation, I'd actually argue yes if you play your cards right, because a lot of people don't think of the fact that your expenses can and conceivably should come down later in life, again, despite inflation. For example, a good majority of people will have paid off their mortgage or will be close to paying off their mortgage come retirement. So in other words, they may not need to pay for housing anymore. And since you're not working 260 days of the year, your transportation costs will naturally come down as well. potentially substantially low. Plus, when you're on the other side of 50, 60, 70, you may not have a strong desire or the health to travel far and often for fun. Home and family is really where the heart is in older age, right? You may have grandkids that you want to spend time with, keeping you pretty grounded, or at least animals, or pet turtles. I don't know. I just respect that not everybody wants kids. And frankly, my first name's Frank, my middle name's Lee. Anyway, frankly, it may not cost you a lot in hobbies if your main hobby is visiting grandkids and hanging with your turtles and hedgehogs, or whatever you have. Unless you take them to Disneyland all the time. Don't do that. Turtles and hedgehogs aren't allowed there anyway. That was bad. But what about the unexpected? The scariest U word. After all, healthcare cost can and likely will be your biggest expense come retirement in older age. At that point, nothing is guaranteed, especially your health. And that's just the reality. Oh, and as an aside, I do want to give you a pro tip here though related to health. Max out your HSAs, everybody. If you have access to one but don't have one, get one. I have a criminally underwatched video here on the channel that exposes HSA secrets and why it's my favorite refirement account. Yeah, I said refirement. Check that one out next, but only if you're into triple tax benefits. All right, back to Fat Fire. Speaking of the unexpected and healthcare and retirement, that's where Fat Fire actually comes into play and should be considered. With Fat Fire, you have a large cushion, like maybe a super large cushion. And just because you can spend $100,000 a year in retirement doesn't mean you will. Maybe you spend just $70,000 or $80,000 a year and keep the rest in case of emergency, continuing to grow invested. More than likely, that emergency again could be a health emergency. Fat Fire means more freedom, flexibility, and protection from emergencies and the unknown. I'm sure you can see why it's appealing to many. However, actually saving and investing $2.5 million can be a completely different story, so those are your obvious pros and cons there. Pro, safety and having more money. The obvious con, it can be very difficult to save $2.5 million and keep it invested. That's very difficult on any budget, and it's basically impossible for people that have lower incomes now. Whereas regular FIRE, and especially lean FI, is accessible to anybody with the right mindset, education, and approach to everyday life. So back to lean FI. Again, the advantage of lean FI is the amount of time it takes you to get to financial independence. A shorter length of time than regular FIRE, and a much shorter length of time than Fat Fire. So you save aggressively now, you live off less later in life as well, and the pro is that work becomes optional much sooner. Either way, I want to make sure I emphasize this. Don't be in a hurry. You can't force the early retirement issue. Instead, enjoy the journey, it's the best part. I would argue it's even better than the end destination. Because as much as I want to be retired, I don't necessarily want to be older. And that sounds kind of strange, but it's true for you too, right? For the curious, you might wonder where I stand on this matter. And the truth is, well, first of all, I knew nothing about money 3 years ago when I set my money resolution to get good with money. I knew next to nothing about what the FIRE movement was just 2 years ago. And when I did learn about it, it just did not compute. And I didn't admit to myself that I am a proud FIRE movement community member until about 6 months ago. Based on what I've learned and my goals, I feel, well, it's kind of anticlimactic for now, but I stand somewhere in the middle. I'm still digging out of a student loan debt situation. I've gotten my annual expenses down to around $50,000 a year, even, by the way, living in a really expensive part of Seattle. But I don't own a home here. I don't know, how much I'll earn and save when I hopefully do work for myself, potentially full time. I have a strong itch to travel more, maybe 2, even 3 times a year, especially in retirement. But I don't have kids. I want to have them, several of them, but who knows, right? I'm all over the place, and that's normal. That's probably you too. There's so much to consider here, so much unknown. But what I do know is that I sleep 100 times better knowing about FIRE in general, knowing that I have a 25x goal, knowing there are lots of different paths to FIRE. I don't have to pick a lane and just get after it. I just need to keep at it, keep learning, keep going, one day at a time. Most importantly, I'm going to enjoy the entire journey. But tune in to my next video because at the end of that one, I am going to reveal which path I find myself most closely aligned to. The best thing you can do is, like me, Continue to learn about different types of financial independence so you can take some part of each, some knowledge, some strategies from all of them to help you on your journey. Everything you learn is a tool in your tool bag. Maybe you love the idea of lean fi, especially if you're just getting started. It's an accessible way to get on the path towards financial freedom and retiring early. Then, once you do reduce your expenses and increase your savings rate, you might find regular FIRE appealing. From there, maybe you do decide to keep it going because you love your job and you realize you're not in a hurry to retire, but when you do, you want it to be awesome. You want to be able to drop $100 bills in all your grandkids' birthday cards. You don't want nice fake dentures, you want nice fake gold teeth dentures. All right, I took that one kind of a weird direction, but you get the idea. Start lean, move to regular, and you never know, you might consider FAT. That's PHAT with gold teeth. Fat FIRE. I should move on from that. Either way, education is everything. Knowing the lanes gets you on the track and positioned to stay on the track. In my next video, I'm going to break down 2 additional kinds of FIRE to continue illustrating how there is no one-size-fits-all plan or path. And I'll end by saying this. It's excellent to pick a lane and chase after it, but don't get fixed in your ways. Because, as Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Or something like that. I heard he just had a boxing match at like age 54. What is 2020? So, what do you think? Are you pursuing one or the other here, or regular FIRE? Do you have an opinion on which one of these 2 is better? Do you have questions or need clarity on any of this? Let me know your thoughts and questions down in the comments below. If you're just getting started and you find all this financial independence stuff motivating already, I have just the thing for you. I made just the thing for you. I created a course and it's called Save Money Resolution. I am going to teach you my system for how to save your first or next $10,000 fast. Find it at my own website, themoneyresolution.com, and I decided to stay indie, so to speak, with this project. I could have put it over on Udemy or Skillshare or Coursera, and honestly, I might have reached more people, but I wanted to reach my people, my fans, my viewers here on the channel, people on the same page that appreciate my free content thus far, people going through it with me. I'm building a brand and I want to keep doing it on my own, forging my own path like I am financially towards financial freedom. So if you want access to my course, you can only get it at themoneyresolution.com. And know that your investment in you supports me and the channel so I can reach my goal of helping people full-time improve their financial life. But more importantly, it helps you. I hope to see you there. I literally guarantee you're gonna love it with a money-back guarantee. Course or not, be sure to subscribe to the Money Resolution if you haven't already, because more types of FI, like I said, will be broken down here soon, and check out my FIRE playlist after this in the meantime. Like this video if you're still watching, because it does help the video grow legs and reach more people's feeds. Oh, and it sends some good signals to the FIRE gods for you. That last part I made up. My name is Frankie, this is the Money Resolution. I'll be here weekly with personal finance videos to help you retire on time, or ideally early. I appreciate you for watching this, and I'll see you next time in the next one. Thanks. And I have to really hustle to edit this one. I have just a few hours until my computer has to go in for repair. Wish me luck. I'm talking to myself. Hello, future self. Watch this video next. Not me, you. I gotta get to editing.